Business Focus with Kudzie, Sharara on the Champions League breakfast.
20 minutes before, make it 20 minutes before 8 o'clock. It is our time right here on Capi Talk. As always, we get to discuss the world of business. So what's happening in the world of business with Kudzie, Sharara? You've got questions, drop them right now on 0719 100404. Good morning, Kudzie. How are you?
Good morning, Tinashe. Good morning, Patsan, and good morning, everyone.
So let's get to discuss a lot of what's happening. So let's get to discuss what's happening in the world of business. Kudzie, if I want to live in a cheap place in Zimbabwe, in Zimbabwe, where should I go?
Maybe by province, because those statistics is repo from ZIMSTAT.
Okay. So which province would I go?
I would answer Masvingo. Masvingo is the cheapest place to live at the moment, because you, according to ZIMSTAT, you need just 555 zig for you not to be considered as poor. So no one kutorarama zvakanaka uchigara kumasvingo about 555 masvingo netara saka zvakatorongeka. Yeah, so kumasvingo kunenge kwakati chipei. I think another place that is closer to masvingo is National Central. You can also choose to live in National Central, where you need.
That's like Banana Bindura.
Yes, you need roughly about 587 million, and it's surprising. 587 zig.
Okay,
yeah. And it's what's surprising there, Tinashe. A few months ago, sometime last year, National Central was actually the most expensive place to live, and we were actually asking ourselves, but it seems like the tables have been turned. Masvingo is now the cheapest, followed by National Central. That's where it's cheaper. And then I don't know what happened. Matabeleland South used to be the cheapest place to live in, but according to these statistics from ZIMSTAT, it's now expensive. The most expensive place to live in is Bulawayo. That's the most expensive place to live in. Yes, it's a surprise for me as well. So you need about 736 zig for you not to be considered as poor if you're living in Bulawayo. If you earn, as an individual, if you earn less than 736 zig, you will be considered to be poor if you earn less than that. But if you earn above that, then you're fine according to ZIMSTAT. So that's and then Harare is somewhere in between. You need 698 zig according to ZIMSTAT. But in terms of food, the most expensive place to buy food is Matabeleland South again. So I'm wondering what's happening in Matabeleland South. Is it because of the drought? Probably that's why their food is now expensive.
We're talking about Nabate Bridge, Gwanda,
yes.
Going down, right?
Probably they experienced drought and food is expensive because kuna shortages. Maybe that's the reason. Because in terms of food, Matabeleland South is most expensive place to buy food, followed by Bulawayo again. You need about 419 zig for you to be able to buy food and not to be considered as poor. Harare, you need about 409 zig. And then the cheapest place again in terms of buying food is again Masvingo. Masvingo Netara, you need 357 zig. Followed by Mash Central rather, where you need 348. So in fact, Mash West is actually the cheapest to buy food. That's National Central, where you need 348. I would have thought it's cheaper to buy food in Mash West because no one but it seems Mash Central, that's why it's cheaper. Manicaland is somewhere in between. You need about, for food, you need about 414. So it's actually above average. It's above the Zimbabwean average, because in Zimbabwean average you need 399 to buy food, 399 zig, but you need 414 in Manicaland. And then in total consumption yako including you need 632 if you are living in Manicaland, which is again above the average in Zimbabwe, because in Zimbabwe they're telling us that you need 399.8 zig and for food, and then 623.4 for accommodation.
Pane mvunzo watoya pa Kudzie, hanzi handisi kunzwisisa mari iyo iri kutaurwa na Kudzie ndeye pe wiki here kana kuti for a month.
ZIMSTAT ndo vanofanira kumbobuya titi.
Yeah, they should come.
They should come,
Yeah,
because they should explain to this.
Yeah.
Nde pamwedzi pamunhu mumwe nemumwe. Handiti iwewe tinashe uri 1 hanzi unokwanisa kutenga chikafu chako chepamwedzi pa 399 unokwanisa kutenga chikafu chaunoda chaunokwana kuti usazonzi uyu munhu murombo. Handiti for you not to be considered poor, you need 399 for food, and then in total you need 623 zig pamwedzi for you not to be considered as poor.
Saka pa vari kuti ivo kana 600 something yavataura pamwedzi vari kuti if it's a household of 5 people,
No,
it's
not
600
for
times
household.
5.
Not for household.
Per individual.
Yeah, for individual. So kana household multiply kuti mumwe nemumwe mumba matiri muno 5 times 623. I think 623 is roughly $45.
Aiwa, ZIMSTAT ngaimbouya.
So it's 623 is roughly $45. So they're saying kuti iwewe ukapiwa $45 nasi unogona kurarama mwedzi wese. Handiti uine shelter, uine zvese zvaunoda pa $45. Ukana uine $45 as your income, hatikuti uri murombo. You can survive. Yeah, you can survive. Hausi murombo.
Tikukumbirawo kuti please extend an invitation to ZIMSTAT.
Yeah,
to come through one of the findings, like we have extended to Zimra.
Yes.
And they said they are coming.
They are coming.
Yeah, they are organizing to come and explain everything to do with taxes.
Yes.
So we just wait for that moment.
So we also extend a similar invitation to ZIMSTAT to say, come and explain these things. How do you come up with these calculations?
Because once the Kudzie, now that ZIG seems to be stable based on ZIMSTAT statistics, what is going to happen to those with June year-end financial year-end? Are they going to report in line with IAS 29? With inflation-adjusted financial statements or not?
Yeah, so yeah, that's an interesting question. So I think they have to wait for the, I think it's a public accountants body, something like that, public accountants body, to give them direction to say, shall we now change our accounting from inflation adjusted since now we are stable? I think they take a period. We are just 3 months into the introduction of ZIG, which is relatively stable, and maybe they might take it up to the end of the year. I'm not sure, for them to then say, let's change our accounting. Imagine you change now and then all of a sudden things go haywire again. So I think they will review at the end of the year.
Anzi ZIMSTAT tinoatenda nemastatistics avo asi havana kutiudza kuti kwakachipa mabhiya kuraramira ndekupi.
Yeah, there's actually the survey yavo kazoitarisa yese, especially inflation. They have got party alcohol, panema alcoholic beverages aripo pa statistics avo. So you can actually, maybe tomorrow I can, because I don't have the spreadsheet with me today.
Okay.
You can maybe talk about it tomorrow.
Someone is trying to explain why maybe Mat South is most expensive.
Yes, yeah.
You say in Matabeleland region, business people, they don't accept local currency, that's the ZIG. You buy using US dollar or the rand. And if they are to accept ZIG, they charge exorbitant prices. I guess that's what is causing these prices. Also, most products are being produced in Harare or Bulawayo. Transporting them will be costly. More reasons for us to support devolution in all sectors of our economy. Let's open industries in the rural areas.
Yeah, that's a valid point. And yesterday, someone was asking me about those rural business units and stuff like that.
Yes.
Yeah, so I think it's a valid point. However, in the past, like if I go back to my statistics, maybe let's say 2 years ago, like I was saying, Matabeleland South was one of the cheapest places to live in, actually. And at some point, it was Matabeleland North, kunana Victoria Falls, Wange Okoko. It was the most expensive. And then over the years, I think a year or so ago, we started to see Mashonaland Central being the most expensive, and now the tables have turned again. You're now seeing Bulawayo as the most expensive, and you'd wonder, but why would something like that happen? But very valid points that he has raised, especially in terms of devolution. Imagine some of the there are some products, especially if I as an individual, for example, general dealer ndine shop yangu Matabeleland South, ndikatakura zvinhu zvangu ndega kubva whatever wholesale iri muHarare, ndinosikotoisa markup yangu. Zvasiyana ne, for example, there are some companies that distribute themselves havasingochinje price kuti nekuti taakunotengesa, for example, if it's a beverages company ikadistributa muno muharare, haiti kana yakudistributa kubulawayo or yakudistributa kumatablet and sounds yoti no price kuno kuti yasiyana. They distribute a uniform price. But vanhu vanozvidistributira vega vachizohodha vega vanozoisa markup yefuel kuti ndazokwira bhazi ndazodii, and then vosikoisa maprices are a little bit more expensive.
All right, thank you so much. Kelvin has just popped up on WhatsApp and say appreciating, looking forward to. Remember, he's the one who's been asking a lot about Zimra, and he's looking forward to
the response.
To the response when
and also
Zimra
comes. Yes.
All right, well, thank you so much, Kudzie, for that. Let's look at the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange trading update.
Yeah, I was actually asking on Twitter, on my Twitter handle at Kudzie_Sharara yesterday, to say who let the bulls out. You know,
it's happening.
It's a bull run on the ZSC at the moment, and I'm sure investors, those who are holding on to their shares, and those who are selling, I'm sure they are quite happy with what's the developments on the ZSC. But obviously, for those who are still looking for money and say, I want to buy shares and I want to get into the market, I think it's not a good time to be unless you really know that the share prices are still undervalued. Then you can come in. I saw someone, an analyst, putting it on Twitter the other day, saying that there's still some headroom for more price gains on the ZSC for some counters. So yeah, if you think there's still room for you to get into the market, but when the market is like this, I don't get into the market.
So now that there's a bull run, is this the right time? Would you advise somebody to say this is the right time for you to sell? Profit or keep holding on? It's not going to.
It depends. If you're a trader, yes, you might start to consider taking some profits because there are some shares that when I'm looking at them, I'm like, they've gone beyond my expectations. So I might consider selling and take some profits, or redirect to those funds to some counters that are still in the negative territory. For example, Wildo, since the introduction of ZIG, is still in the negative territory, down by 1.6%. So I might start looking at some of those shares and say, okay, maybe I can get in there since Mangwandandi now anyanya kumanya stereki, those things. So it depends on if you're a trader. If you're a long-term investor, you're just there, just looking at what's happening. But yesterday the all share index was up by 3.95%. Top 10 index putting on 3.39%. Top risers, FBC, putting on 15%. They've completed the transaction with Standard Chartered, and they've since renamed the Standard Chartered Bank. It's now FBC Crown. So that's
okay.
Yes. So that's
so there's FBC and there's FBC Crown.
Yes, it's targeted for the wholesale market, your high net individuals. So anyway, BAT also putting on 15%. AFDIS 14.9%. ART 14.99%. ZB Financial Holdings also 14.99%. So you see, top 5 risers all up by about 14.99% and above. So really, the bulls are out there. Only 3 companies were in the negative territory. That's Pro Plastics down 13.23%, Star Africa easing 0.87%, and Wildo down by 0.66%. Most of the funds that were invested went into Delta, about 7 million ZIG worth of shares changing hands in Delta, 4.5 million worth of shares changing hands in Econet, about 1.3 million ZIG worth of shares changing hands in Mikus. So smart money, or most of the money, went into Delta, Econet, and Mikus. So that's how things went on the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange yesterday.
All right, now let's also look at listed companies. How are they performing?
Yeah, Citco released their results. That's Citco Zimbabwe, which is listed on the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange, and they're telling us, and I think this was expected, they're saying that overall sales volumes were nearly a third lower. So it's like their sales were down by roughly 33% than prior comparative, and we know because it was because of the El Nino-induced drought, farmers were impacted in terms of buying seeds, and they obviously did not buy as much seed as they usually do, especially for maize, and especially for maize. That's where they were hit the most, nearly a third of volumes not being bought there. And then they managed to export a little bit more into the region, and then Wheat sales volumes remained flat. We know as a country, we've been doing well in terms of wheat, and they're saying wheat sales remained constant in comparison to prior year, despite challenges experienced by farmers, which included power cuts, high prices on key input and on key inputs such as fertilizer, and also the issue of exchange rate volatility. So that's Seedco there, and then also Wheeldale also saying that volumes went up by 3%, but they are crying that the introduction of a 15% VAT, but anyway, it's not Zimura inongo implementa chete mitemo sezvainenge yapiwa negovernment, but there is an introduction, a 15% introduction on the sale of bricks, and Wildo is saying that consumers were resisting to pay more, because it means if you're paying $130 per 1,000 bricks, you now need to pay 15% more, because there is now the VAT aspect, and Wilde is saying that their consumers, their customers were resisting paying more. And you know, when they resist, what they do, Tinashe, they go to there are now a lot of informal brick makers in the country. They are mushrooming and they are informal, so they don't pay taxes. And these formal businesses, your Wildo of this world, will start to lose business. Be that as it may, they are saying volumes went up by 3% for the period under review. So that's I think. And then the other one that also released the results, that's Hippo Valley, saying that sugar production was down by 6%. That's for Hippo Valley. And then they are also, however, saying that total industry sales went up by 3%, and Hippo Valley industry sugar sales, its market share went up by 1%. And again, they are also crying there. That's Hippo Valley, saying that there was an influx during the period under review. There was an influx of cheap imports, sugar imports, and I think we are still seeing them. Things were then changed. There was a statutory instrument, that was statutory instrument 80, effective 1 February, which was brought in, and it leveled the playing field in terms of sugar. So competition from cheap imports. However, I'm seeing there's still some sugar coming from Mozambique, coming from Zambia, that we are seeing in our markets, and it seems like there's some supply gaps within the sugar industry as well. So maybe it's something that we need to find out from them, to say, okay, these supply gaps that we are seeing, is it not the reason why then people start bringing in sugar from outside the country to fill in this gap? Because in any market where there is a gap, this is where money can be made by those who are innovative and entrepreneurship.
So kudzipane paombotaura nyaya yekuti there's a bull run that's happening on the
Zimbabwe Stock Exchange. Yes.
Is there any relationship with the stability of the ZIG to the performance of the stock exchange?
Yeah, the relationship that I can talk about now is that when the exchange rate is stable and you are having these gains on the ZSC, it means your gains are real gains, right? Even in US dollar terms. But I'm still yet to find out whether investors now have confidence in buying shares, because in the past, when you bought shares, and the gains that you would make will be eroded by currency depreciation and will also be overtaken by inflation. So yeah, it's a good question. I'll dig deeper into that issue and see what is the relationship now, what's causing this bull run. Is it because there is excess ZIG in the market? Because also there are challenges in the market in terms of trading with ZIG, especially for bigger companies. There are challenges in the market that are currently happening, and 2 years down the line, a CEO was telling me that 2 months down the line, the impact will be evident in terms of and beyond this ZIG stability, beyond the stability that we are seeing, there is chaos happening behind in terms of the ease of doing business using the ZIG, because you have got players who are saying, okay, in India import raw materials, if you give me ZIG kupenga and squana iri enough, so please give inini ndipe my US so that I can import. Even if you force me to give you the what you want today, if I'm not able to import my raw materials, the next time you come back for the same products that you want, I will not be able to supply you. So let's help each other to make sure that. So there are some challenges in terms of converting the ZIG into US dollars, for import purposes.
Okay, briefly, because our time is up, our last, to those who might have missed out, the response from Zimra?
Yeah, I have to do it very quickly there. So the first question was to say company executives are saying Zimra is demanding the sugar tax of 2%, which was initially announced in January and then changed on the 8th of February. And this is the response from Zimra. They say the changes that were made on the 8th of February have no retrospective effect. And they're saying Zimra's mandate is to implement government's policies on revenue collection, trade facilitation, and protection of civil society. My reading from there is that the changes that were made are not being implemented in retrospective. However, since they are saying that their mandate is to implement government policy, the government policy between the beginning of January and the 8th of February was that there was that 2% sugar tax that was there, and I think Zimra is implementing the policy as it is. And then the other one was on the expiry of tax compliance certificates. And they are saying, no, if your tax compliance certificate is expired, not all of them is expired, but if it is expired, you can then go to the and apply to Zimra for you to be able to get that.
Thank you so much, Kudzie. Let's cross over straight to the news at 8.